Hello. Welcome to Season XV of the Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, we're watching movies from the 90s and talking about how they fit into the larger picture of 90s horror and how each year from that decade stacks up against the others. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. Of the hard decisions we've had to make throughout Season XV about which movies we were going to include, there were a couple of judgment calls in the beginning that I leaned into being a purist the first time around and to really sticking hard to that no sequels or remakes and no movies that we've talked about before.
Yeah.
And because of that, I stayed away from Wes Craven's New Nightmare for 1994. But that was probably the movie I wanted to watch most out of all the ones that we had to ignore. And now that we're going back and giving a saving throw to the years that didn't really stand much of a chance to be competitive in our rankings, it just seemed like the right time to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it was fair. It needed to be done. Plus, I just wanted to watch it.
Yeah, same. And I don't think, 94 is any real contender for the top spot anyway. So it's just let's do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Had you seen this before?
No, I hadn't seen it at all. Have you?
I hadn't either, surprisingly. And at first, when I read about it, when we were going through initially, I had the mindset of okay, this is basically a remake, so it's not eligible. But in actually watching it, it did not feel like that. It felt much more similar to the requels movement that we saw a few years ago. This might have been kind of the first thing to do that. It was really interesting to me the way that the story played out, and it was kind of taking that idea of the original movie universe and then tying it to sort of the future, but bringing back some of the same people and all that. So it was really, I thought, an interesting movie just as a concept, and was really unique for 1994.
Yeah. Kind of bummed out about it.
Oh, did you not care for it so much?
No, just got bummed.
Oh.
I think it's called depression.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
I'm back.
Okay. Whew. Good. That's going to be...
No, the truth was I was aggressively finding my notes to this, because this is another one that I watched a long time ago, but I forgot that we watched it until we started recording today, or else I would have watched this one over another one. Doesn't matter. But Anyway, what can you do?
Well, what's funny is when you texted me about recording today and you were just to make sure these are the movies we're doing, right? You said Blade, but I totally read it as I envisioned Freddy's Claws.
Yeah.
And it was just yep, that's the one, and this one, and we're good to go. It didn't even cross my mind that wasn't the movie that we were talking about.
Yeah, and all fairness though, that was also before 8, so I'm pretty sure it was all before 8. So that's too early to be making business decisions.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was really bad on me, but we'll get through it.
I like what you're saying with the prequel though. It definitely felt like that for sure.
Oh, I think this movie was actually low key super influential on a lot of things that I want to get into. Yeah. But I'm going to start off by doing a quick introduction, and then we'll get into if you have a claw fetish, this is the movie for you, baby. Details.
It's one guy going, yeah.
I hope this episode gets posted on a forum that I would never visit.
I'll let you know.
Appreciate you. In 1994, New Line Cinema brought us Wes Craven's New Nightmare. This movie was written and directed by Craven, and it builds on Nightmare on Elm Street's character Freddy Krueger without maintaining any continuity with the previous movies. New Nightmare tells the story of a universe where the Nightmare on Elm Street was a successful but tapped-out movie franchise. Things start to change, though, when the original writer starts working on a new script and Freddy starts to emerge into the real world. This movie was made on a budget of $8 million and made almost $20 million at the box office. It's damn near impossible to find on streaming sites, but you can actually rent it from Apple TV if you try hard and believe in yourself.
It's just the goddamn corporations like screwing us over, for the record.
It is so annoying.
I'm just saying.
And
it's the worst. Yeah.
The thing is, like, I want to willingly give my money to someone in exchange for watching this movie that has already been digitized. Is that easy or hard? And all of these streaming companies are like, oh, no, sir. This will be very difficult.
Yeah. It's insane. Blows my mind.
Yep. So I went into this one not knowing what to expect. I thought that it was just going to be like a straight remake of the original. And so it was a little disorienting to me in the beginning, but I feel like it did a good job of kind of taking some of the concepts and ideas of like what was scary from the original and then working them into a totally new story. And I feel like everything about this on paper is like, this is a really smart, really creative, an interesting and unique type of movie to be made in 1994. But I also didn't love it. Like, it didn't really blow me away. I wasn't really on the edge of my seat for most of it.
You know what? I'm going to absolutely agree with that, because I keep having to think back, like how this was made in 1994 and not more recently because of the prequels that we've had now that you pointed out. Like, legit, like it's like, oh yeah, 1994. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. One thing too about this, just a quick shout out to Heather Langenkamp. She was the main actress. She played Heather in this. You know, she's an Oklahomie. Oh,
I didn't know that.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Huh.
So she's one of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Making her way up in the world. So I like it.
94 wins, I think, the decade because of that alone. Yeah. No, we also got West Studi too. Never mind. I think that with this one, I definitely thought it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to play into the old one or to the OG one as much, or any previous ones. I just thought, literally from the name, it was going to be like a redo, like a new Nightmare. Like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? And so, like, I think, I was definitely judging a book by its cover for sure with that. But that was just my thought, was that, oh, we're going to get something different. And it was totally opposite of what I thought. Also noticed in the 90s, there's a whole bunch of like single moms with boys as their kids. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, that has been a major recurring theme in the episodes that we've seen so far.
Including in my life, too. That's when my dad left us in the 90s. Here comes the depression again.
You just can't outrun it, man.
I'm back out.
Just got to learn to roll with it. Good. Rebound. Yeah, so this movie, I feel like... So I mentioned in the intro that it was made on a budget of $8 million, but only made about $20 million at the box office. And I think part of that is, as the 90s wore on, there was kind of starting to be that like franchise fatigue where, like, do we really need, another Friday the 13th? Do we really need another Nightmare on Elm Street? Do we really need another Halloween? And this movie, I feel like, was almost too smart for its own good. Like, I feel like if you were a real fan of horror movies and of like movie making, you would just be like, oh my gosh, there were so many little things in this, so many like nods and references and, pointing out tropes and talking about sort of the general state of the once great slasher franchises at that time and everything else. It's just like, oh man, this is so brilliant. But it also just wasn't like super engaging to watch on its own. And I would have to think that not that many people are like movie nerds like us. So if even I was having trouble sticking with it, the average moviegoer probably would not have had a great time with this one.
Yeah. Yeah. It was easy to kind of get lost in from the point of view of like, I don't know if this really pertains to much of what I'm watching right now. Like, what does this pertain to? I'm kind of getting lost here. Who is who, especially since I haven't watched, Nightmare on Elm Street in years. But, at a certain point, I think it got, did I need to know this, or they were just going to answer it? Should I just put my hands down and just kind of watch it? Which is what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
Worked out.
Yeah, and I feel like this one also was a little more true to the Freddy character. To the Freddy character of the first movie than what he eventually became over the course of the movies. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't really like the wise guy, and you didn't really even see him up close until a little over an hour in. And I think you had the stat when we watched Nightmare on Elm Street to review it that there was only like 15 minutes of screen time for Freddy in that movie. And this one I feel like kind of got back to form on that. Like it really wasn't making it all about him. It was a lot more kind of about the story and about sort of the Heather's like struggle with it and the kid's danger and all that. Like it reminded me a lot more of the original Nightmare on Elm Street than any of the sequels, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing to do if you were rebooting it. And yeah, I didn't like he looked faker to me in this one though than in the original.
Yeah, I felt like we had more screen time of just the actor Robert Englund than anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Which, not complaining, I'll just say like over Freddy is what I mean by that. But yeah, that was the thing. It was like, oh, there's the actual actor, and oh, they're trying to make him look like he's the one doing it, kind of thing. But
did you have any favorite scenes in this one?
I think the scene where the boy is in the hospital, and that whole sequence alone, like there are multiple pieces to it where it's like being pissed off, like that's your kid. They're playing the psychological effect of like, well, which, let's be fair, like they haven't seen what's been going on for the past however many days, and the kid shows up and is like this, like you got to question the parents. I would only assume if, and so like to be fair, but the whole hospital sequence was insane. Like finally he shows that she's not crazy. Freddy's actually like hurting and killing people, and not only is he doing that, he's doing it in a very gnarly fashion. Just like had the babysitter helper up on the wall, just like and the whole time you're sitting brutal. There. Oh, dude, and like you had Dylan the kid like the whole time sitting there like watching it too, and just like the thought at the end of this movie, it's like, well, there's no matter what, there's no happy ending. That kid's gonna be dealing with that
right
alone, exactly. But that was probably one of my more favorite scenes of it, I guess. I would go with that one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That was when the movie got the most intense and also the most interesting and sort of the most like traditional horror, I guess would be a good way of summing it up. There were some scenes that just really didn't work for me. Like when the giant CG claw picks Dylan up and then drops him in the middle of the highway. And then he sees like the army of Freddy's coming after him. Like all of that just felt very, we're trying to be as surrealist as possible and just throw whatever we can at you to keep you guessing what's going to come next. And it didn't look real or interesting. And then that ending scene, they were in like Freddy's dream world that was like a Roman bath or something. And then it felt so dragged out, and the action was just so slow paced in it that it was like they were really trying to build up like the drama of the scenes, but the visuals just were not doing it for me whatsoever. And so I don't know. This one, it felt like a lot of the scenes did not pull off the intensity that they were going for, which just makes them kind of boring. And the movie was a lot longer than it needed to be, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, from the highway scene alone, like, I guess if that was a dream, like, okay, that's different. But I guess another struggle you think of is like that no one is acting the way that at least a handful of individuals would if they saw a kid in the highway. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like, this has to be a dream or something, because like, anyway, that's threading the needle. I mean, it's just too in depth, but it was just strange. I mean, I'll even throw in like the scene where she's like talking with Wes Craven, about like what's going on, and like, yeah, he definitely provided answers of why Freddy's doing it, but he also sounded like he was just trying to get her to do another film to, make another film, in a way. So it was just, there was just things throughout this where it almost didn't seem like very cohesive, like almost like, oh yeah, and then we could do this, and then other writer over here is like, oh yeah, and then we could do this, and we'll make it work. Just put in a scene in between where they get dropped in a highway, and then I'll pick up from there. It just seemed like not too cohesive.
Are you ready to play Nancy one last time?
Yeah, exactly. And it made me want, but it did make me want to just watch the original too. So it was like,
same. It really did.
Accomplished.
Well, and so that kind of gets into what I was talking about before, where this feels like the template for all of the requels. Because like when the Halloween remake came out in, what was that, 2018 or 2017? Something like that. And it kind of set that formula and made a ton of money. Like the first thing I wanted to do after I watched that movie was go back and rewatch the original. And I felt the same way with some of the others, even the ones that weren't as good, like the crappy Texas Chainsaw remake. Like watching that made me really want to just go rewatch the original, right? And so I feel like I had the same feeling even with this one, where it was, okay, the story was clever, the movie was kind of meh, but I am more interested or excited about this franchise than I have been in a long time. Like I really want to go back and watch some of the early ones because it reminded me of, those characters and kind of the power that they have, even though maybe the delivery wasn't as good here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like anytime I watch any movie that has Leatherface in it, I immediately just have the urge to like switch it off to the OG, which is definitely one of the best for sure. And this one was just in the same category. And admittedly, like I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street is like as important as a horror film to me as it is a lot of others, and that's okay. Like you're allowed to have favorites, but this one for sure. Like it was almost like it was almost like when I was addicted to meth for like 8 years, and then I stopped, and then I wanted it again. Like I needed to watch it, but I didn't do it. I'm not falling back on the horse. This is wagon.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not worth it.
I'm back on meth.
Just not worth it.
I just got to tell you. Well, that's how
you do what you got to do, man. We're all just trying to survive out here. Everybody listening knew that you were as soon as you said Oklahoma. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, home of the meth.
Yeah, like legit in our hometown, they had to close down the Taco Bell for a while because somebody was mixing meth under one of the tables in the dining room.
Yeah, I got so mad.
Like
at my
that's
dad
a real
about
story.
Yeah. Dude, take out the Sonic. Remember the Sonic back in the days too? That was gnarly. They were putting poop in the chili. That's actually happened. Kid got arrested for it.
Ugh.
Makes you stronger.
Things that don't like to think about.
this movie was really like, it was almost like a clip movie. I felt like, in a way, like there was like the underlining like story that's happening, but it just seemed like maybe because it's dream sequences and everything, it just seemed like it was just like, here's a dream, and then here's maybe reality, maybe not. Oh, here's the actual story that's going on. Like, I didn't really know what was what. And technically you didn't really have to, I guess, if you're watching it to be able to talk about it on a podcast, like you may pay attention and stuff like that a little bit more than what I would normally do anyway. But it definitely didn't seem too cohesive. But you know what film it really reminded me of, and I'm going to have to ask you to help me with the name of it.
Under the Skin.
No, but you can watch that and Ghost Story on HBO Max right now if you want to go hate your life for the rest of your life. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, you seriously? I can't rent
Can't escape
New Nightmare.
It. Right, yeah.
But Under the Skin, it's free.
Just right here waiting on me.
What was the one with the werewolf that we just recently watched? The one with the dog.
Bad
Max
Moon?
Was the dog. Bad Moon. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And I think it was the same thing, kind of like what we were talking with last episode, but it's like the setting and the scenery of it. Like with Doppelganger and Species is what I mean, where it was just like, I just felt like it was similar. I mean, mom raising a boy kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that for sure now that you say it.
And so, if I'm being completely honest with you, I would have rather watched Bad Moon over this one, and then watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
So I think I probably, just based on the way you're talking about it, like this one a little bit more than you did. But all of the things I like about it are just the sort of the artistic work of it, all of the little, horror nods. And I think that it was a very well... I think that it was a smart story. And I think that there were some even almost like more independent movie type scenes in it that I kind of liked, like the one where she's following the trail of pills down the bed into the dream world. But I also totally admit it wasn't a great movie, and I don't really intend to watch it again. But I will bring up one thing that I'd like to hear your take on.
Yeah.
Do you think this was kind of the prototype for Scream?
For Scream. How so?
Because it was pointing out a lot of the like tropes of slasher movies. And so like Scream,
I could see
Scream did that and it like introduced a new character, whereas this one was kind of doing it with like an old character and like pointing out the previous franchise and how too many sequels had been made. Like it was like a very self-aware type movie, and I felt like if you had injected more comedy and a younger, more relevant cast, this really isn't that far off from what Scream was.
That's a really good point, man. I'm hearing this for the first time. Oh my gosh, kind of thing. That actually kind of blows my mind. You're right. It is. And you know what Scream needed? Freddy.
Yeah. Scream would have been great with Freddy.
Man.
Or just Robert Englund, really, in general.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I really great point. Yeah, and so I don't I don't feel like this was a great movie, but I feel like this movie should get credit for being very influential, just because I feel like this walked so that Scream could run, and then also a lot of the things that we've seen kind of in these requels that have happened more recently and been really successful kind of drew some inspiration from this on how to like take on that story and to pick up the original thing that happened a long time ago and kind of repackage it in a more modern thing and bring back some of the notable faces from it and all that. So I'm really glad that we watched it. I will probably not watch it again, but I do think it deserves a shout out for being pretty influential in kind of the horror movie history timeline, which is one of the things that we've kind of been looking for as we've gone through these movies from the 90s.
Yeah, It's a must watch for sure. It'll probably be watched before maybe one or two of the sequels down the road, but yeah, it was there. You know what I mean? It didn't knock my socks off. It didn't knock my socks off.
And it seemed weirdly obsessed with Freddy's claws. Did it not?
Oh, just from 100%, the very beginning
through the whole movie. I mean, it was just like, they're popping out of the fabric in the seat, or they're coming up through the sheets, or it's like those claws, I feel like, had 80% of the movie time. And like, I get it, but after a while, it's just like, how many times do those claws have to be like moving towards you when you don't see them, and then you wake up and they go away or something? Like, it just, I don't know who that was for, but if there is someone out there, congratulations, like, you found your movie.
It's like, oh, you're the bad guy that has the claw. Like, I've been trying to figure out who this was this whole movie. I should have picked up on all the claw scenes. Right, it was you at the end? Are you kidding? Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the damn Shredder.
Yeah. I want my money back. Ain't no Ninja Turtle in this film, man.
Not a single one. Nobody's eating pizza.
Yeah.
Rats are all normal size. Screw this.
Well, it was 94, so I mean that could have been the thing.
Yeah.
But I have a question since we're wrapping this up.
Yeah.
How many Ninja Turtles could take on Freddy?
Do turtles sleep?
What do you think? I don't know.
Oh,
I just gave the most.
Could they protect April? That's the real question.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't even know if Freddy's claws are strong enough to cut through those hard shells.
Yeah, that's true.
But if it was TMNT2, that you don't even get to use the weapon, so probably Freddy would have won.
Yeah, I guess it's really kind of a time and place type matchup.
I'm back to being depressed again. Is this bipolar?
Is bipolar the same as manic depressive?
Sure.
Then maybe. And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or hit us up on the IG. That's what the kids call Instagram. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening. Hang on a second.
Sounds like Zelda.
Why is there a damn ice cream truck in my neighborhood?
Hey, since we're pausing,